Hello and welcome to an IP3 deck tech for Verdance, Thorn of the Rose. I was able to take this deck to two different pro quests and was able to make top 8 in both of them and finals in one of them. Can follow along on the YouTube video to see the cards that I'm talking about. I'm not going to read through every single card because nobody wants to be here for that long. So the basis around this deck is I've got two plans. They've got a mid-range plan where you can kind of just walk down with your opponent and have a little bit of a arcane damage combo finisher, kind of like Bullander Icelander used to do. Or there is the straight up combo plan where you're trying to do 40 to 60 damage in one turn, all arcane damage. So I'll go through and I will talk about the cards and why they're in the list first, and then I'll go through after that and explain how to do both plans. I'm not going to talk through individual matchups, nor do I even have a matchup sideboard guide because I am notoriously bad at making those and keeping them updated. But luckily, with the two plans, they actually overlap with a ton of the cards. So if you start playing the game and your opponent starts playing one way, and then they switch and you need to pivot your plan, all the cards are in the same deck, so you're able to pivot and change plans as well mid-game, which is very nice. So we're going to start here with the equipment. So I've got as my only chess piece bark skin of the Millennium Tree. Rhea keeps trying to convince me to play Tunic, but I think it's kind of boring, so I don't play it. It may end up being correct in the long run, and it's a card I'm thinking about possibly adding in. But for now, I've been happy with bark skin of the Millennium Tree. Being able to block 6 with one card from hand, assuming that's a 3-block non-attack action, after this makes an embodiment for you, is very significant due to cards like Command & Conquer and Erase Face and other 2-for-6 disruptive attacks. Or it can be blocked with on the first attack on a chain against Aurora, for example. And then it'll create your embodiment, which will then let you block with your 3-block non-attack actions on all their 0-for-4s later that chain. So a wizard having armor, it's a good deal. I'm all about it. I've got 2 arm pieces. Metacarpus Node, 95% of the time, it's just there for Arcane Barrier 1. That'd be random edge cases where you actually activate it to try to get a kill on your opponent's turn with Stormstriders or something. But I think I've maybe only activated it for the ability one time. But it's just Arcane Barrier with upside. The other arm piece that I'm running is Stonewall Gauntlet. Again, most of the time it's just for the 1 block, but it's better than Iron Rot because sometimes your opponent will have to be attacking with greater power than its base, and you can get 2 armor out of it. If they need to keep the chain going, you can possibly get more out of it. And another thing to think about is blocking with this and an Earth card incentivizes your opponent to break the chain, which will then send the Earth card to your discard pile, and then your Rootbound Carapace that is going to defend later. Now that they've broken the chain and there's an extra Earth card in your discard pile, that can matter for sure. So trying to incentivize people to close the chain and get more Earth cards in your discard pile can also be relevant sometimes. The only headpiece that I'm playing is Plume of Evergrowth. It's just super versatile. It lets you turn a blue into any card that you've already played. Well, the stipulation that it's an Earth card. So this can get you rampant growth for your combo turns, or if you need disruption, like this turn, uh, really badly, you can go get a Felling of the Crown or a Plow Under, um, and play either one of those off of this, even with just 2 blues in your hand. You can turn it into a disruptive attack or an extra piece of your combo. Another thing that you can do in a pinch is ditch a blue that doesn't block to get a card that does block in your hand. Um, I think if you're doing that, you're probably you're probably losing the game and not in a great spot. Um, but it is an option that will sometimes keep you alive. Um, the only boots I'm playing, Storm Striders, um, Arcane Barrier 2, sometimes relevant. um, but mostly it's the threat of the Storm Striders activation that keeps people honest and lets the game go longer. And the game going longer is better for Earth Heroes and Verdance especially. Um, you're not always getting a kill with Storm Striders like a lot of the wizards have been. Sometimes you can, but there's definitely times where you can just use Storm Striders as a tempo play, where your Viserai opponent is attacking or has played a non-attack action and made some rune chants, which then you know they're going to use to discount their next attack. You can respond with Scour on their turn to destroy those rune chants, so now they can't play the attack, and you just saved yourself some damage by destroying the rune chants, dealt arcane damage to them on their turn, and also ended up bricking their turn. You can also do something similar to Spectral Shields attacking. If you're playing against Enigma and you're able to destroy the Spectral Shields with arcane damage, then while they're attacking, the go again won't resolve and it'll end their turn. So that's something to just keep in the back of your mind. Storm Striders, you don't have to, in this deck, you don't have to hold it for killing your opponent on their turn. The only weapon that I'm playing is Surging Aethertide, which is a very important piece to our 40 to 60 damage combo turn. But also, people pitch into this a lot more than I feel like they should be pitching into it, like to prevent the damage. It feels a little bit like Coronet Peak, a little bit. I definitely think that it's only dealing 1 arcane damage, and if I do follow it up with a surge effect, you could just pitch the card after to prevent that damage, assuming that you're running Arcane Barrier. So I think it's kind of a trap that people are falling into, blocking with this, or blocking this damage out when they don't always need to. Because sometimes it's an attack that's following it up, or sometimes it is a arcane spell. But yeah, it's a way to also cycle cards out of your hand if your opponent is not attacking you. Alright, so that's the equipment that I'm playing. Not a lot of equipment. There are ones that I'm thinking about adding to it, but as the list stands right now, these are the ones that I'm playing. So moving on to the deck and these are the cards that I'm gonna play in every matchup. Command and Conquer, very boring, very vanilla, very in every deck, but there's a reason for that. It's great disruption, a 3-block, and people can't play defense reactions to it. So kind of boring, but does what it needs to do. Next is Felling of the Crown, which is probably the best attack in the deck. a 2-card 8 that also guarantees to take a card out of their hand as long as you're decomposing. Um, Disruption and a lot of value or damage off of 2 cards. Um, it's definitely the card that I want to be playing the most. The only downside to it is you're not able to attack with it and arsenal card from your hand, because with the decompose effect being a mirrored effect, you you won't be able to hold a card and attack with Felling of the Crown because you'll have to put that card on the bottom of your deck, which is a good way to sink a combo piece if you need it for later. But just note that you won't be able to get an arsenal if you're attacking and decomposing with this card. The next one is the Pulsing Aether Life Meld card. It's kind of everything that the deck wants to be doing. It gets you to gain life. It deals a big chunk of arcane damage. It's an earth card. It blocks 3. It's a non-attack action that blocks 3. It's kind of everything you want to be doing all in one card, believe it or not. Next, Sigil of Solace. I was only on 1 or 2 of these for a while, but the more I played the deck, the more I definitely wanted all 3 of them. Well, your Verdance hero power is turned online. It's just a 0 for 4. You gaining 3 life and your opponent losing 1 life unless they're preventing it. So that's good, but it also, on a combo turn, it can replace one of the combo pieces if you're having to go off before you need to. It can be a replacement for any of those effects, as well as in the mid-range plan, having Sigil in Arsenal and wait until you draw a Rampant Growth just lets you amp some arcane source by 4, which is very significant since most people at maximum are running AB3. I think a lot of people I've been seeing have been running AB1 into Verdance. So it's even better in that situation. Next is Plow Under, probably the second best attack in the deck behind Felling of the Crown. It's Command and Conquer that is guaranteed to get their arsenal. But as a note, it also gets your own arsenal. So I really like arsenaling Plow Under and then being able to block with all my cards down to 1 and attacking with it from arsenal. Yeah, but when your Aurora opponent or someone is, you know that they've maybe fused with a card and showed it to you and then put it in arsenal, like you knowing that you're gonna get that on the bottom of their deck is, and they don't have an option to just block it with armor and keep all their cards. The effect is guaranteed. Up next is probably the most important card in the deck, Rampant Growth Life. This is the card that your combo turn is built around, as well as being a great tempo plan. I usually try to get one of these in the discard, the first one I see in the discard, so that I always have access to it with Plume of Evergrowth, and I can get it back in my hand whenever I need it. Just be careful of decks that can banish things out of your discard pile, because this will probably be a high value target. If that deck is able to do that, then you might try to keep it in your deck and pitch it or bottom it with Felling of the Crown or Plow Under. But this will be what the combo is based around, and I will explain that. a bit later. So up next is our first zap. It's basically just a wizard non-attack action that's blue and blocks for 3. That is what it is most of the time. The reason I'm running Arcane Twining over any other blue zap in this spot is because of the ability to discard it. Sometimes opponents won't attack you, or in a wizard mirror, for example, there's not a lot of blocking being done. So this being able to be just discarded to fill up your graveyard to be able to banish for decomposing is a real upside. I don't know if I've ever used the the amp one, but it could be relevant in a late game scenario if your opponent only has AB1 or something like that. But normally it is a resource card, a blocking card, or discard to fill up my graveyard card. Alright. Up next, everybody's favorite Earth card. This card's so good it used to be banned. Autumn's Touch. It's a blue Earth card that blocks 3. That's it. That's the show. The floor is very low. There's very few Earth cards that block for 3. So this being one of them means it's in our deck. Destructive Aethertide. Again, another blue zap. Non-attack action. Blocks for 3. Blue card. This one has a relevant surge effect if you're getting to amp it with Rampant Growth or Surgent Aethertide. It is 90% of the time just a blue block 3 non-attack, but it has upside, so that's why it's in over any other one. Next is Earthform Blue. This is one of my favorite cards in the game, just Earthform in general. It's got the same stat line as Autumn's Touch, with the exception of not blocking 3 and only blocks 2. But sometimes you are forced to attack with your blue cards, because we're not running a ton of red cards that we want to be attacking with. So sometimes we'll draw an all blue hand, but this attacking for 5 into aggressive decks is not that embarrassing off of 2 cards. But the on-hit of making an embodiment Earth and allowing us to block better on their follow-up turn if they choose not to block it is why I like running it. They can either give me cards or cards in armor to block it, and all my cards will block the same as they normally do, or they take 5 damage, and now all my non-attacks block for 4. Good deal to me, either way. Next, I've got Blue Evergreen. Same stat line of 3 resources, 5 damage, block 2, Earth card, blue. What it is most of the time, but with Wizard not having a weapon that deals physical damage, it's just arcane damage. These 2 evergreens that I play are the way that we don't get fatigued. Because with 2 evergreens and a blue, assuming that you have an infinite life total and don't actually have to block at any point, which is probably not true. But in theory, you can attack with Evergreen from Arsenal, pitching your random blue card, attack your opponent for 5, and then when the combat chain closes, since you played it from Arsenal, it'll go back on the bottom of your deck with the blue that you just pitched. You take the other Evergreen and put it in Arsenal, and then rinse, repeat that cycle until someone is out of life. Yeah. That's the reason Evergreen is there, so that the option not to get fatigued. Fruits of the Forest. Same stat line as we've been talking about. 3 resources, 5 damage, 2 block. But has the instant to discard it and gain 2, which we're already running Arcane Twining just for that effect, just to fill up our graveyard. And Fruits of the Forest is also an Earth card. It's not a block 3, but gaining 2 life and then potentially dealing 1 arcane damage while filling up our graveyard or boosting a combo turn. Fruits of the Forest is just one of the most versatile cards in the deck. It can just do anything we want. All the things that the deck is doing, Fruits of the Forest can do one of them. Alright, next we've got 3 healing potions, which are essential to our combo game plan. But with all the things that cost resources and all the other blocking cards that we have, even when we're not on the combo plan, I like having them in. Even if that's not my main game plan, it's always just there in the background in case my opponent pivots and tries to like stall out the game and fatigue me. I can set up these healing potions and have a big rampant growth turn. Heart of Faendal. Honestly, I just play this because I have one. If you don't have one, this can be any blue block 3 non-attack action. But the upside of pitching 3 resources, which we want to do most of the time, your Verdance is pretty good at manipulating life totals, taking damage when she wants to be lower than the opponent, and then gaining life later. Means that oftentimes this will be 3 resources, 1 health gained, and 1 arcane damage dealt, which is pretty good upside. But like I said, it's not a requirement for the deck. I just play it because it's a cool card and I have one. Next, Heartbeat of Candlehold. This is an Earth Wizard action. Blocks 3, and it's blue. Therefore, it's just in the deck. It also happens to have the text of gaining us 3 life, 1 at a time. So it's potentially 3 health gained, 3 arcane damage dealt. It is one of the only wizard actions that has go again. So in a weird scenario, you could activate Storm Striders on your turn, play Heartbeat of Candlehold to go up an action point and have 2 action points, and then do something else with the rest of your turn. I don't know when you would need to do that, but it is a potential to keep in the back of your mind that you can net an action point with Heartbeat of Candlehold and Storm Striders. Also, with the attacks that we have, like Command and Conquer and Plowunder and Erase Face, we'll see here in a second, the tech cards. It costing 1 means it fits pretty great into that cost curve of Heartbeat fits into the cost curve of I will play this and gain 3 life, deal 3 damage, there's 6 value into, for example, Command and Conquer, 6 more value as well as Disruption. So 3 card, 12 with Disruption. Good stuff. The next blue zap, Pop the Bubble. 99% of the time, it is a blue non-attack action that blocks for 3. But the surge effect versus, for example, Prism, or if Enigma is running the Spectra auras, it can be relevant if it's possible to get the surge off. So I don't think I've ever destroyed an aura with it, but has the potential for it. Now, a card that I have destroyed a lot of auras with is Scour. And a lot of the time in previous Wizard decks, this has been a sideboard card. But the fact that it's blue and blocks 3 as an anti-action means it's good enough to make the main board. There's also enough auras running around in the game right now that, especially with Viserai and all of the auras that he can make, it's a card. This is a card versus Viserai that I arsenal and wait for them to commit multiple malefic incantations onto the board, make a ton of rune chants, and then I can play Scour, destroy all of those. Destroys their resource base because now their cards aren't getting reduced by it, as well as big chunk of arcane damage, as well as me not taking all that arcane damage. Like I said, you can do a tempo play with Scour and Stormstriders to kind of brick some Viserai turns. So Scour is a great card into the current meta. So down here in the inventory, I've got cards that I'm not playing into every single matchup. So it'll just depend on what is most effective against the hero that you're playing. I like to be about around 12 decomposed cards in whatever deck I'm playing. So I've got 3 Felling of the Crown, 3 Plowwinder, so there's 6. So some combination of Cadaverous Tilling, Summer's Fall, and Rootbound Carapace, depending on what's going to be most effective. Like if your opponent is playing a bunch of auras, play Summer's Fall and Rootbound Carapace. If you're playing against a deck that is not going to attack you physically as much, don't play Rootbound Carapace, play Cadaverous Tilling and Summer's Fall. Ideally, before you play Felling of the Crown and Plowwinder, you will have already decomposed with one of these cards, so that the Felling Crown and Plowwinder will have their buff for there being more than 4 Earth cards in the Banish Zone. And it's attacking with this for 4, or Plowwinder for 2. It does not feel good. Much rather attack with it for 8. But Cadaverous Tilling does that for is just a 2-card 8. That's an Earth card. Kind of just good numbers, Bullender style. Next, I'm running the red Earth forms, 3 of those, and I am playing these into decks that I'm doing the mid-range plan into, where they really are not going to want to block 7, for example, like into aggressive decks that either don't block well or want to hold all their cards. Attacking for 7 and me getting an embodiment if they don't block it all out is a great spot, because I like blocking for 4 with 1 card. Next is Lightning Strike, another snoozer of a card, but it does what it does, and that's why it's in most decks at this point. Just very versatile, lets you run your mid-range plan or apply pressure to decks that are just trying to block, like sending Enlightened Strike into Felling of the Crown off of 4 cards. Is a pretty good turn. Or just attacking with this, just another 2-card 7. Doesn't have the on-hit of Earth Form, but it can potentially let you sink away cards that don't block, like Sigil Solace or Heart or Healing Potion if needed. The next tech card that we'll talk about Erase Face, just 2-card, 6, but there's a lot of the top decks that want class and talent types. For example, as Verdance, this is my least favorite card to see because it forces me to block 6 because I can't decompose because there's no earth cards. It turns off my hero ability because there's no earth cards. Just a good card. It makes it so that Viscerize attacks are not Rune Blade anymore. So play is non-attack, and then play a Rune Blade, attack with, go again, whatever, make more rune chance. He won't make any more rune chance if this has hit him. So you're getting 6 damage in, as well as reducing the amount of damage that Viscera is going to be able to do next turn. Or like this hits Aurora, she won't be able to make an embodiment because she won't have played lightning cards. Pretty. Before each match, I look at Erase Face and I think, does the hero I'm playing against care about their talent or classed things? And if it's yes, then I put it in, and if it's no, then I leave it out. Up next, Life for a Life. show what a fab boomer I am. This is a card I think almost everybody that I've played it against has had to pick it up and read it. But it is a 1 for 4 with that 90% of the time will have go again, because like I said, Verdance is able to manipulate life totals pretty easily to go down below her opponent and then gain life to be back up above them. But assuming that your hero power is on, this is attacking for 4 with go again at 1 cost, which means we can follow it up with a 2 cost like Command and Conquer or Erase Face or Plow Under. As well as, if it hits, Verdance will gain 1 life, which will deal 1 arcane damage then. So it's possibly a 1 for 6 value go again into another disruptive attack like Command and Conquer. Kind of fills a slot like Heartbeat of Candlehold in that way. Downside is it blocks 2, not an Earth card. You could potentially change this out for Scar for Scar. Maybe better. I could see the argument for either one, but I like the upside of the threat of the on hit. Make your opponent block 4 on this. Slow down the game a little bit. Next, we've got Rootbound Carapace. It's an Earth card that blocks 3, so it's already in our deck. But it has the upside of being able to decompose on your opponent's turn, as assuming that you've got the cards to do so, and then at that point it turns into a block 4, which is great. One thing to remember while decomposing, so Verdance needs 8 Earth cards in her banish zone in order to have her hero power online. So you can potentially get her hero power online in only 3 decomposes. Because if you choose 3 Earth cards, and then 2 Earth cards and anything else, that will get you there in 3 decomposes. So just keep that in mind. You only have to do 2 Earth cards and an action card, but if you have the Earth cards in your discard pile to do it, it's much easier to have the hero power on after 3 decomposes than 4 if you can do that. So once you get online faster, and the more healing you do, more damage you will deal. Sink Below, another snoozer of a card, but it does what it does. Blocks 4, fixes the hand. Summer's Fall, another decomposed card, but has the upside of getting rid of auras. Like I said, with Scour, there's a lot of auras running around the game right now. So you can get rid of Enigma's ward before she gets the chance to block with it. or get rid of agility tokens from KO, or rune chants or incantations from Viscerai, or embodiments of lightning. There's a lot upside to Summer's Fall, as well as just being on 2 for 6. The next card is another card that most people in the game haven't seen, and it's my spicy tech for the Mystic Heroes. Aetherize. 1 cost, negate target instant with cost 1 or less. All the Mystic Heroes are running maybe not 9 chi, but a lot of chi, probably at least 7. And this being able to, oftentimes I've been able to brick turns by, basically it says discard a card, because they're going to play their Amish ancestors to gain 1 life, whatever. But what they really want is the inner chi back in their hand. So you negating it means that it just does not resolve, so it does not become inner chi. It just goes to the discard pile, and they just spent a whole card to gain. Well, no, they didn't gain the life. It still counts as them having played a blue card, because the card was still played. It just does not resolve. So, like if they are trying to play a Levels of Enlightenment, and then they go hold priority, then you just smile and say, we got them. Because you are going to negate their Transcend card, which now means that they can't use their hero ability to give Levels of Enlightenment an extra mode, and also takes away a resource card out of their hand. Does a lot, and then they have to play around it for the rest of the game. Aetherize is a reason to run Tunic, because it costing 1. But I'm not running Aetherize in that many matchups to fit Tunic in. Maybe if you don't have a Heart of Fandel, you can just like switch in Tunic, and then if you're playing Aetherize, switch in Tunic. That would make sense to me. And then lastly, another snoozer of a card, Warmonger's Diplomacy. It's blue. It blocks 3. It's non-attack action, but it also really slows down some decks in the format, like Azalea and Viscerai. So that's why it's in there. Also pretty good against Dash.io. When you play this, I always try to Arsenal and attack with it and choose War, because there is a chance that you can play it and draw a bunch of blue zaps after calling War and not be able to play them. So if possible, I like to play Warmongers, declare War, and then Arsenal attack. Arsenal at least an attack, so that I know that I'll be able to do something on my following turn. All right. So those are all the cards that I'm playing. Like I said, the deck has 2 different plans. I've got the mid-range plan, which is just prioritizing good 2-card hands to disrupt your opponent. Command and Conquer, Felling of the Crown, Plow Under, Erase Face. I kind of put Earth Form in that that camp as well. Well, it's not exactly disruption. It does make me block better if they're not going to be blocking it. Thing you got to watch out for, because a lot of the cards are like redundant blue cards, and it's, oh, which card do I block with? Which card do I pitch? First of all, always try to pitch Evergreen and keep it in your deck for the super late game, if possible. But you do want to make sure that you always have enough Earth cards in your discard pile to decompose when you need to. So if I have an option to block with Autumn Touch for 3 or Destructive Aether Tide for 3, and I don't have that many Earth cards in my Banish Zone, I will probably block with the Autumn's Touch, so that if next turn I draw a Felling of the Crown, then I know that I'll be able to block 2 cards, and then play it, decompose with it, disrupt my opponent, attack for 8. Um, so, like I said, I like about 12 decompose cards. I'll run Summer's Fall into decks that that rely on auras, and then Aetherize for the Mystic Heroes, and Warmongers for the decks that slow down. So you're prioritizing good 2-card hands that disrupt. How do you finish the game, Alex? How do you win? So a great way is, like I said, with Rampant Growth, I like to put the first one in my discard pile, as long as it's not going to get taken out of there somehow. That way I always have access to it. I can turn any blue card into it with Plume of Evergrowth. And then when in the mid-range plan, when life totals get to about 15, I will, depending on which one I find first, I'll either Arsenal a Sigil Solace or Rampant Growth, and wait for the other one to arrive. That way, I can have a little double Rampant Growth turn. So I can heal 3 off of Sigil Solace and deal 1 damage. I will play a Rampant Growth, life, trigger the life to gain 1, deal an arcane damage, and then before the Rampant Growth half resolves, I will activate Plume of Evergrowth to go get the Rampant Growth out of my discard pile, and then play that as an instant. Let the life resolve on that one, deal 1 damage to the opponent, and then let the Rampant Growth resolve. And at that point, you have gained 5 life, 3 off of Sigil Solace, 1 off the first life off Rampant Growth life, and then the second, and then the 5th one off of life on the second Rampant Growth, and then you allow the 2 Rampant Growths to resolve. And now you've got Amp 5 and Amp 5, so your next spell is amped by 10. Depending on what your hand looks like, you can either Surge and Aethertide for 11 into maybe a blue Surge spell, or you can just play the Surge spell for 11 arcane damage. And then they're at 15, and you just gain 5 life. Now you go up to 20, and it's likely they go down to sub 5. And then at that point, if you still have Storm Striders, you can use that to get the kill with a Pulsing Aether life. Or you can just keep the mid-range plan going, and eventually they'll leak 3 more damage from you healing, or just attacks that they can't block out. So that's the mid-range plan. Get life totals to about 15 each, and then you can have a small combo turn that's going to put them so low that you'll be able to kill them on subsequent turns. Or maybe they don't prevent any of it, and you should get the kill that turn. Because Surge and Aethertide for 11 into a spell is like potentially 20 if they don't prevent any of it. So maybe that'll be enough to finish the game as well. In the mid-range plan, depending on how the game is going, like I said, you can use Plume of Evergrowth not only to get Rampant Growth back, but if you really need disruption, like life totals are getting super low, or maybe they don't have Arcane Barrier at all, and you know you're just going to be able to, as long as you can heal with your Heartbeat of Candleholds and your Sigil Solaces, that you'll win that eventually. You can use Plume of Evergrowth to get Felling of the Crown or Plowunder for good damage and disruption when maybe you draw a hand of 2 blues that don't really do anything else. And like you don't want to attack with Arcane Twining and a Pop the Bubble for 1 arcane damage. You could potentially turn those blue cards into a Felling of the Crown. If you get extra cards in the mid-range plan, you want to make sure that you're cycling through so you can get to your good disruptive attacks. So you can ditch extra blues and stuff into Surge and Aethertide. And then, like I said, a lot of people tend to prevent the damage on this, even though they probably shouldn't. um, but it's just another way to get cards out of your hand when you're trying to cycle through your deck a little bit. Let's see. What else do I have typed out here? Something else you can potentially do is play the same Rampant Growth twice. So you can play a Rampant Growth and let it fully resolve and go to your discard pile. And then pitch a blue for Plume of Evergrowth to get that same one back in your hand and play it again. The only thing is, Verdance Hero Power is a May ability, so just make sure if you're doing that, if you are playing a Rampant Growth, letting it fully resolve, and then playing another Rampant Growth after it that you decline the arcane damage trigger on the second life, or else the amp from the first Rampant Growth that is fully resolved will get added onto that life, which you don't want. You want all your amp onto one big chunk of damage. So you still gain the life and still get the amp buff from Rampant Growth, but you just get one less arcane damage. But that's okay because you'll still be amping quite a bit. Let's see. Like I said, pitch Evergreen and put them on the bottom of your deck as much as you can so that you have those for the late game if necessary. That's kind of it for the mid-range game plan. On to the combo plan, which you can play with these exact same cards, which makes it easy. Your priority in this game is finding and playing your healing potions. You want to get these out as quick as possible, so that once you see your Rampant Growths, you can have your big combo turn. You don't actually even need Verdance's Hero Power to be online to go off and have your big turn. I was playing against a KO in one of the ProQuest games, and I saw a Healing Potion turn 0 and turn 1, and then my next turn I had Arsenaled a Sigil of Solace and drew 2 Rampant Growths. So it was turn 3 and it was go time. I had 0 cards in my banish zone and was able to just I think I dealt like 37 maybe that turn, which then put him to 3, and then I was able to kill him with Storm Strikes the next turn. So you don't actually even need Verdance's Hero Power or have to wait that long. Your only time limiting factor is getting your healing potions out and finding your Rampant Growths. I do like to put, like I said, my first Rampant Growth in the discard pile to just have it there safe, ready for when I need it, because you don't want to be IPing yourself with Rampant Growths and just like holding them in your hand, waiting for the rest of your deck to line up. Don't want to be doing that. You don't need to decompose for the combo, like I said, but your decomposed cards do slow down your opponent, which lets you get to your potions faster. So they're still worth playing and running. So the combo, Alex, what is it? How do I do it? The combo is you break your 3 healing potions, you play a Rampant Growth, you respond, like I said in the mid-range plan, after life resolves, you respond with another Rampant Growth. Possibly, if you have access to a third, you can triple Rampant Growth, which would be really gross. And then you would again want to respond to the life resolving, or after it resolves to play your third one. And then you're going to activate Surge and Aethertide, which will be buffed by your Rampant Growth amping. And then either a blue zap will get buffed by the Surge and Aethertide, or you will likely have one floating from pitching blues, so you can also just play the Pulsing Aether half of life, and that'll be a couple more damage, but it works just as well if you have a blue zap after the Surge and Aethertide. So that turn, you've got 8 health gained from healing potions and rampant growths. You have 5 pings of 1 arcane. You're sending Surgent Aethertide for 17, and then your arcane spell for 18. So that is 40 damage, assuming that your opponent has prevented 0 of it, which is unlikely, but it's also unlikely that they will be at 40 health at this point by the time you find all these cards. If you can manage to get the triple Rampant Growth, it is 9 health gained, 6 pings of 1 arcane, Surgeon Aethertide for 28, blue zap spell for 29, which is 63 damage. So that is also quite a large chunk for somebody to try to live through. Things to note for that combo. Each of your healing potion is worth 9 damage, which is why it's so important to have many of them out. If your opponent is taking a bunch of damage, just like not blocking any of your attacks, and you've got healing potion set up, you may not even need to do 40 damage. Like if you only need to deal 30, you don't have to wait for your third healing potion. Just depending on what life totals are looking like. Sigil of Solace, like I said, can be a substitute for either Rampant Growth or Healing Potion. You still want the double Rampant Growth, but if you have a Sigil of Solace, it can kind of stand in an act for a third Rampant Growth, because you'd be at 9. You'd be at if you only double Rampant Growth but have a Sigil that turn, you are what's that? 6, 9, 10, 11. So you're amping for 22 instead of 28 off of triple rampant, which is a little bit less, but still 5 more than just a double rampant growth combo without Sigil. So Sigil, Fruits of the Forest, Heartbeat of Candlehold, those can kind of substitute for one of your combo pieces if you are needing to go off earlier than you'd like to. So you just need any blue for Bloom of Evergrowth. And then your arcane spell to follow up the Surgent Aethertide, whether that's Pulsing Aether Life or Destructive Aethertide. That's it. That's a combo turn. If you can have a Heart of Fandel to pitch into Bloom of Evergrowth, then it's even better. That's just more healing, more rampant growth damage. So the inventory is kind of just what we are needing in the meta that we're battling. But cards that I am considering for the future or have played previously, like I used to before the Dash.io Armory kit came out, I was playing Aether Spindle as well as the Channel Millennium Tree. Um, Aether Spindle to opt to get to my combo cards or decompose cards faster, depending on what the game called for. Nobody's running Arcane Barrier 4 into Verdance, and I think very few people would. In my experience, very few people have pitched to prevent the spindle, so I've been opting for quite a bit. And if you can line it up with Channel Millennium Tree, then you can opt 7 and dig through your deck super fast. But Channel Millennium Tree is also an Earth non-attack action that blocks for 3. So that is the floor to get into the deck. It being red doesn't excite me. It being able to amp 3 is quite good because that will amp your Surging Aethertide, so you could potentially get it could potentially be amp 6 across a turn if your opponent is not preventing the Surging Aethertide damage. If we end up in a heavier fatigue meta, which I'm not sure we will be going to, with Hunted coming out soon, with Assassin and Ninja and Warrior. Doesn't seem that that's very likely, but Jarl is coming out too, so maybe. But Red Evergreen being a 3 for 7 that you can recycle and keep putting on the bottom of your deck since you don't have a weapon is an option that could be used in the future. Thanos Fighting Spirit, I'm pretty sure this is the first card that everybody put in their decks when Verdance was announced. It's just a 3-card 9, potentially, if you are lower life and your hero power is turned on. It is good value. If we don't need such specific tech like Erase Face or maybe Summer's Fall or Life for a Life, then you can easily switch these in to fit in the deck, no problem. There's not quite making the cut for me right now. Like I said, Scar for Scar, it's pretty interchangeable with Life for Life. I like Life for Life. The potential 1 resource, 6 value is good, but also 0 resources, 4 value is also good, just a different scale. A card that is very close to making the list, Seeds of Tomorrow. The amount of break points and split damage, and if Kano comes back, it has the potential to prevent 5 across a turn, not just one instance of 5, if you also give up your arsenal. But getting this card in your discard pile, since it's an Earth instant, it is grabbable by Plume of Evergrowth. So in a pinch versus an Aether Wildfire, or a like you got some red boom grenades on the field that you need to prevent from going off, Seeds of Tomorrow really fills in that slot pretty well. Alluvian Constellus. If more arcane decks enter into the meta in the future, being able to use the Surging Aethertide for free instead of it costing 2 is just 1 less card that you need on your combo turn, which is nice. Arcane Barrier 1. I haven't needed it, and also I actually don't own this card. But I've been happy with Barkskin so far and Metacarpus Nodes for my AB1 and chess slot. But that could potentially change in the future. Tunic is on the block of looking at cards to add. Like I said, it pairs up really well with Aetherize and Life for Life, that costing 1. Heartbeat of Candlehold costing 1. Pretty good there. I just like Barskin better. That's for right now. Could change in the future. And then the last card that is an option that I've actually, I think I am going to find a spot for this, is Well Grounded. Uh, so the decks that you're not gonna need Storm Shiders for a tempo play or try to kill them on their turn or Arcane Barrier 2. This being able to just prevent breakpoints, like against a Dash IO, for example, being able to block 2 0-60s with just 2 cards instead of 4, with Well Grounded on the table. Also, a weird side case is if you're playing against Florian and they're playing Dread Scythe, you are going to need to set up your combo turn and also keep your Barkskin undefended with, no temper counters on it, so that on the turn that you're ready to go off, you can break Well Grounded to prevent the arcane damage from Dread Scythe, and then the one left over from Well Grounded and the Barkskin to block 3 on the Dread Scythe, so that you're able to heal that turn without giving up cards, and you're able to get the combo off. I had cut this card and then played against Florian in the finals of our ProQuest, and they knew I was going to be there and played Dread Scythe specifically for me. I didn't have the tech for it, so didn't end up pulling that game out. But there's a lot of things in the game where this, like preventing 2 at instant or reaction speed, can be efficient. And that's it. That's the deck that I have built. Questions I've had is why there's so many blue 2 black earth cards. It originally started as a Verdant Shoots deck, because I wanted to try to make that weapon work, but it just didn't. I couldn't get there. But I do like having a bunch of earth cards, even if they don't block as well, in order to be able to decompose when I need it. I don't have to worry about scrambling to try to find earth cards to get in my discard pile. But, alright, that is going to be it. Thank you so much for watching. Let us know if you want more of this type of stuff. I don't usually go out and look for deck techs personally, but there were a few people who asked us to make this. We can do this for other decks as well. I know Kevin's really getting into the Living Legend format, so maybe he will come out with one at some point for a Living Legend here that he's playing. But anyways, like, subscribe, blah blah blah. Thanks, and we'll catch you in the next one.